Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Spaceflight Now's live coverage of the latest mission from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. I'm Will Robinson Smith, reporter with Spaceflight Now. It's good to be with you here on this Sunday, the 1st of March. We are broadcasting, as we always do, from the Spaceflight Now News Bureau here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center under a practically full moon tonight. So you take a look at this shot, courtesy of our John Pisani of 97.7% fully illuminated moon, our own satellite to Earth, the target for the forthcoming Artemis 2 mission when it is able to fly. Of course, the Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft are currently inside the vehicle assembly building as NASA assesses a helium flow issue and works to get that and a number of other things checked off before returning the rocket back out to the pad. Teams are hoping to preserve an April launch window, with NASA's Lori Glaze saying that they need about a week and a half of time at the pad prior to launch. April 1st is the earliest launch date within the April launch window. However, a specific target date for NASA won't be formally announced until after the rocket gets back out to the pad. One good thing in the run-up to the Artemis 2 mission, though, as we were told after last week's press conference here at the Kennedy Space Center, is that the plan, as it currently exists right now, is that they will not perform a wet dress rehearsal tanking test when the rocket does return to the launch site. So one less thing to add to the schedule once the rocket is back at Launch Complex 39B. Teams are preparing for the flight of 3 Americans and 1 Canadian for a loop around the moon ahead of what is now a newly reimagined Artemis 3 mission, no longer a moon landing, but a flight in low Earth orbit. You can learn all about the changes made to the Artemis program in our latest video here on the YouTube channel. We can throw in a link in the live chat for your convenience. Bringing things back down here to Earth with the Falcon 9 rocket set to fly here in just under 57 minutes, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. This will be SpaceX's second Falcon 9 rocket launch of the day, following a successful flight from Vandenberg Space Force Base earlier this morning. And a thanks to our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, for not only running the technical operations of this morning's broadcast, but also stepping in for commentator duties on that, for which I and my vocal cords are very grateful. Speaking of our editor, Stephen Young, just one piece of the Spaceflight Now puzzle that helps to make this and every other live broadcast possible. Our photographers have been busily preparing all the cameras around the press site, in addition to our friends a little bit further flung from here at KSC. If you're not following the fellows, though, you can find them at their handles here on X. John is at John Pisani Photo. Adam is at A Burn NYC, and Michael is at MD Kane Jr. Also, be sure to follow Spaceflight Now simply at Spaceflight Now. We are on Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook for those of you who are not on X. We'll also be joined a little bit later in our coverage by our friends P. Karstens with Max Q Productions. And we are joined right now by our friends Chuck and Jen Briggs with C&J Images, joining us from down on Merritt Island. Helping us out in the live chat, moderator Jeff Hansen. And you may see some of the other mods pop in and out throughout the coverage. So you can help make all their job that much easier just by adhering to our live chat rules. We ask that you post your message in English so that the mods can respond as appropriate. Also, that you hold off from delving into topics of overt politics or religion. We are, of course, very aware of all the global events that are happening right now, and there are many forums in which to discuss them. However, we try to keep this line or live launch coverage as apolitical as possible. So we appreciate you respecting that. Emojis are perfectly fine to post in the chat as well. We just ask that you don't create a huge block of them so it takes up a large chunk of the live chat space. Last but certainly not least, we ask that you treat each other with the kindness and respect that you yourself would like to be treated, and we'll all get along swimmingly. We're joined this evening as well by one of our channel members, Cumulus Granatus, who's able to help answer folks' questions in the chat. Speaking of channel members, this and every other live launch broadcast are made possible in no small part thanks to our wonderful channel member community here on YouTube. So big thanks to folks like Mark P, Sulfur for Lunch, GY Calix, Space Coast Rocket Launches Florida, Distributor 69, Glenn Ashworth, and many, many others. Channel membership comes with a number of perks, including discounts at our online shop, which is shop.spaceflightnow.com, access to our member-only videos here on YouTube, access to our members-only Discord server, and of course the ability to watch all of our live launch liftoff moments from here in Florida, 4K. Do want to welcome in new channel members, Chris Chin, who's joining us at the Pad Leader level, as is another Chris Mopes. Appreciate the both of you hopping aboard with us. We're very glad to have you on board. Also, if you have a comment or question about this mission or other goings on in the realm of space or spaceflight, or like channel member Chuck Close, want to support with the just a little bit of financial support this evening for the coverage, you can use the YouTube Super Chat feature. And not only will you be giving us some interesting things to talk about as you cruise on through the count, but you'll also be supporting what we do here at Spaceflight Now, and that, my friends, is always greatly appreciated. So thanks very much to Chuck for the very generous $25 Super Chat. Really appreciate that. That being said, we are also exceedingly grateful for the audience that we have tonight, the more than 2,700 of you who are watching along with us live at this point in the broadcast, and a great, easy, and free way to support us here at the channel. Super simple. Just by clicking that like button and sharing the stream really does make a difference in helping to bring this coverage to more people. And it does a great deal of good to support the channel. Same with hitting the subscribe button. More people that are part of our subscriber base, the greater opportunity we have to bring this coverage to more people, have more folks learn about the various launches that happen from here in Florida, as well as further flung. As we, of course, have a global audience and more countries from around the world are able to send their payloads to space, we love the opportunity to bring that coverage to you wherever you are around the globe. So your support helps a great deal in that endeavor. Currently T-minus 50 minutes, 13 seconds and counting to the planned departure of this Falcon 9 rocket. With all of that housekeeping out of the way, let's talk about what's on tap for tonight. For those of you who have been missing the northeasterly trajectory launches, well, you're in luck. SpaceX is pivoting more towards that in at least the next month or so. Tonight's launch, Starlink 10-41, will take that northeasterly turn. So for folks that are in the area of especially northeast Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, you may be able to catch a glimpse of the Falcon 9 rocket as it heads uphill. And certainly possibly further north, but of course the further north you are, the less chance that you'll have to see the Falcon 9 rocket, especially with the time of evening this particular mission is flying. Not quite as optimal a time to be able to catch a jellyfish effect. That would be closer to shortly after sunset for those really optimal jellies. The Falcon 9 first stage booster that is supporting today's mission is going to be making its 26th flight to space. Has a tail number of 1078 in the SpaceX fleet. So while it is currently not part of the Falcon 9 frequent flyers list, it will shortly reach that tie status with the booster that is in the 5th spot right now, B1077. From a meteorological perspective, tonight should be a pretty good night to fly a Falcon 9 rocket from here in Florida. Meteorologists with the 45th Weather Squadron forecast a 90% chance for favorable conditions during this launch attempt. If for whatever reason SpaceX is unable to launch tonight, though, that percentage of favorability drops just slightly, down from 90% go to 85% favorable conditions. However, the booster recovery weather in a 24-hour turnaround does become more of an issue. Right now, it's a low risk, not really much of a concern, but tomorrow it becomes a moderate risk on a scale of low to moderate to high. In just under 10 minutes, the SpaceX launch director will make the call on the start of prop load for today's Falcon 9 rocket. Let's go ahead and talk about the countdown timeline, the mission milestones ahead for SpaceX before it's ready to send this Falcon 9 skyward. SpaceX does its readiness poll electronically, so it can conduct this earlier than the T-minus 38-minute mark, but that's generally speaking when it happens. Once the go-ahead for tanking is granted, fueling of the Falcon 9 rocket will start at T-minus 35 minutes with the loading of RP-1, a rocket-grade kerosene on board the Falcon 9's first and second stages, as well as liquid oxygen on board the rocket's first stage. Half an hour before departure, SpaceX will begin to load cryogenic helium onto the pressure vessels for the Falcon 9's first stage, and we'll do the same on the second stage a few minutes after that. The helium is important because it's used to pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. T-minus 23 minutes is when the second stage RP-1 tank should reach flight levels. And at T-minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds is when SpaceX enters into the sequence of chill down for the strong back. At this point in the count, SpaceX is thermally conditioning the feed lines at the pad prior to loading liquid oxygen on board the rocket's upper stage. The good visual marker of this is the so-called big vent, which here at pad 40 begins at T-minus 20 minutes and 20 seconds and lasts just under 4 minutes in duration. Once that wraps up, it sets the stage for the LOX to flow at the T-minus 16-minute mark. Moving right along at T-minus 7 minutes is when the chill down of the 9 Merlin engines begins. This involves flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps, and that helps to protect the engines from the risk of thermal shock and damage during startup. 6 minutes before departure, the first stage kerosene tank should be full. And at T minus 4.5 minutes, we'll see the retraction of the strong back away from the Falcon 9 rocket. First, the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings will open up shortly before T minus 4 minutes. And then the strong back will start to recline away from the Falcon 9 rocket. And it'll pause about a few degrees away from the launch vehicle. Stays in that position until liftoff. And then at that point, it'll pull back in a much more rapid fashion, clearing the way for the vertical climb of this Falcon 9. 3 minutes before the rocket takes off, the first stage liquid oxygen tank should be full. Then it Pardon me. Then at T minus 2 minutes, we'll see the second stage liquid oxygen tank reach flight levels. At that point, the Falcon 9 rocket will be fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. In the final 60 seconds, as we hear the call that the Falcon 9 is entered into its automated startup, control of the countdown is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers. And at the same time, the propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure. SpaceX launch director will then confirm that they are, in fact, go for launch at T minus 45 seconds. The engine ignition command will be given at T minus 3 seconds. And if all 9 Merlin engines are healthy and ignite as expected, the command will be given for the hold down clamps to release the Falcon 9 rocket for a T0 liftoff time. This evening, that departure scheduled for 9:56 and 40 seconds p.m. Eastern, 2:56 and 40 seconds UTC for our friends around the world. And we are just under 4.5 minutes away from the nominal point in time, which the launch director will make the call on prop load. Just under 42 minutes remaining. I want to thank channel member Butterfly for being with us now for 26 months at the pad leader level. Butterfly says good weather, time, and hopefully good luck. Now I'll just have to hope that I don't fall asleep. Thanks, Will and team. That is always the eternal struggle when it comes to these later evening launches, especially when folks have work or school in the morning. So we especially appreciate those of you for whom this is a work or school night. Thanks for sticking up with us. Time now, T minus 40 minutes, 7 seconds and counting. For those who were tracking the progress towards a return to flight mission for Firefly Aerospace, unfortunately, as is the case sometimes, the weather just did not want to play ball, and upper level winds proved to be too much for a launch attempt tonight. Teams are reportedly assessing a new flight opportunity, but as of this singular moment in time, a new launch date and time has not been announced. Firefly says they're working with the folks on the Western Range to determine when would be the next best time to attempt a return to flight for their Alpha rocket. That said, with the weather delays for both Firefly's Alpha and for Japan-based Space One and their Kairos rocket, or Kairos, this will continue with a good launch tonight for SpaceX. Their still unbroken run of being the only rocket that has launched globally on an orbital flight since the launch of Crew 12 back on February 13th. This will be the 11th orbital launch in a row that has been conducted by SpaceX uninterrupted by any other launch vehicles around the world, which is quite something. And I believe as of now, we'll see how things shape up with the Kairos launch from Japan, but could be uninterrupted Falcon 9s for still a while yet, for a good chunk of March. It has been a surprisingly quiet stretch as well for orbital launches from China. So, keeping an eye on any upcoming flights from the various rockets flying orbitally from China. In the meantime, though, we're T minus 36 minutes, 48 seconds and counting to the departure of this Falcon 9 rocket. On board are 29 V2 mini optimized satellites. This will be SpaceX's 22nd launch of the year supporting its Starlink constellation. With a good deployment a little more than an hour after liftoff, SpaceX will have sent nearly 600 of these Starlink satellites to orbit in 2026 alone. Time now, T minus 34 minutes, 26 seconds and counting. With the clock continuing to tick down for this Falcon 9 rocket launch, at this point, we expect that SpaceX has begun prop load for its Falcon 9 rocket. We're going to be watching for those telltale signs of fueling, just as a good visual confirmation, though. What we're watching for is a frost line to form at the base of the Falcon 9 rocket as the supercold densified liquid oxygen flows on board the first stage. It'll be a little bit hard to discern the lettering of SpaceX, given that this booster has flown 25 times before, and there's still a bit of heat distortion between our camera and the rocket itself. But if you see the branch that is crossing just in front of the base of the booster, just above that, you can see a horizontal line where some of the soot is wiped away. It's right about that point where we'll start to see the frost line form and a little bit of vapor in that region as well, as we see the difference between the super cold densified liquid oxygen and the considerably warmer and more humid Florida air, which is unfortunately getting warmer and more humid as the days go on. Our brief foray into winter seems is at its end, with highs now creeping back up into the upper 70s, lower 80s. Looks like we might be cruising towards the mid 80s in a little more than a week's time. Time now, T minus 31 minutes, 20 seconds and counting. Definitely starting to see the frost line build on the booster. That good visual confirmation that we were waiting for. Say that SpaceX is, in fact, fueling its Falcon 9 rocket, which does mean they're locking into that T0 at 9:56 and 40 seconds p.m. Eastern, 0256:40 UTC for those around the world. Because the way that SpaceX tanks its Falcon 9 rockets, once prop load begins, the company does not have the ability to hold the count. So, start of fueling locks them into whatever T0 they're counting towards. Time I just mentioned a second ago in this case. For those of you just joining, you're watching Spaceflight Now's live coverage of the Starlink 10-41 mission, a flight of 29 Starlink V2 mini optimized satellites into low Earth orbit. The Falcon 9 rocket taking a northeasterly trajectory away from Florida's Space Coast tonight. Departure set for 9:56 and 40 seconds p.m. Eastern, 02:56:40 UTC for those joining around the world. Certainly appreciate the more than 7,300 of you who are watching along with us live tonight. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking that like button and sharing the stream, allowing some more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage. Since I see quite a few folks talking about the trajectory for tonight's launch, let's go ahead and address that here as we're waiting for the start of the big event. Falcon 9 rocket's going to be lifting off from Space Launch Complex 40 there at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. And as mentioned, it will fly on a northeasterly trajectory upon leaving the pad. Less than 3 minutes into the flight, the first stage booster, tail number B1078, will separate and target a landing on the drone ship called Just Read the Instructions, positioned out in the Atlantic Ocean. If all goes well with this booster landing, this would be the 152nd good touchdown for this particular vessel and the 477th drone ship landing for SpaceX to date. So for those who are hoping to catch a glimpse of the Falcon 9 rocket and its upper stage as it continues to head a little bit further up north along the east coast, it will be on the order of a few to several minutes post liftoff as it continues to climb away from Florida. SpaceX also concerned with recovering the payload fairings as well with this mission. Fairing halves will splash down in the waters of the Atlantic Ocean a little bit further downrange from where the booster lands on the drone ship. Once the fairing halves are in the water, they'll be brought aboard a SpaceX recovery vessel, like the one you see here on your screen, then brought back down through Port Canaveral, where they will be offloaded, taken over to the Hangar X site, where they will be refurbished, turned around for future missions. Time now, T minus 22 minutes, 19 seconds and counting. Taking a look back at our live chat here, want to welcome new channel member, the Train Man 91, joining us with membership at the pad leader level. As a big train guy myself as a kid, I fully support that handle name. Also want to thank channel member and moderator Jeff Hansen for a $10 super chat. Thank you, Jeff, who says, go Cape, go SpaceX, go Falcon 9, go Starlink, Godspeed 1078. 1078, of course, for those who missed it, is the tail number for the first stage booster that is flying today's mission, launching for a 26th time, which will put it at a tie with B1077 for the fifth most flown booster in the SpaceX fleet. Also, thanks to K2 Hat for a $2 super chat, saying hello from Miko, Florida. And welcome in to another new channel member, Kenneth Graham, joining us with membership at the pad leader level. Welcome aboard. We're glad to have you with us. And you can see the start of the big vent there at Space Launch Complex 40. This as SpaceX is thermally conditioning the feed lines at the pad prior to loading liquid oxygen on board Falcon 9 rocket's upper stage. This vent will last about 4 minutes in duration before the upper stage LOX begins to flow. Just under 17 minutes now on the clock. The big vent will wrap up here in roughly 15 seconds time. And with the big vent now concluded, second stage lock zone is set to begin in roughly 10 seconds. Taking a look back at our chat here, want to thank new channel member Christian for the $10 super chat. Chris, really appreciate that. Kara Griffin with a $2 super chat as well. Thank you, Kara, for your support tonight. Also, thanks to One Harold 2345 with a $10 super chat. Really appreciate that, Harold. And clarifying honestly a question I've had for a while now. Skunk Hogger with a $10 super chat, one of our channel members, saying Hogger is a slang term for a locomotive, especially a steam locomotive engineer, as we were talking trains earlier. Thank you for clarifying. Also, thanks to Jeff Quintrall, another channel member, for the $5 super chat. Stephen Lockwood, supporting with a $10 super chat tonight. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you to Kevin McKenzie for a $10 super chat as well. Thank you, Kevin. Tonight, the Falcon 9 rocket launching 29 more V2 mini optimized satellites into low Earth orbit. For those who were not here earlier in the broadcast, this will be SpaceX's 22nd launch supporting its Starlink constellation so far this year. With the deployment tonight, SpaceX will have a little more than 9,900 Starlink satellites in low Earth orbit, according to stats maintained by friend of the channel, astronomer and expert orbital tracker Jonathan McDowell. These V2 mini optimized satellites are manufactured up in Redmond, Washington, which is near Seattle, the facilities that you're seeing here on your screen. The satellites are considerably lighter than the predecessor V2 minis, clocking in at about 575 kilograms versus the 800 kilogram predecessor V2 minis. With their solar panels unfurled, they have a wingspan of about 100 feet or 30 meters. These satellites use argon Hall effect thrusters for in-orbit maneuvering, as you can see here on the screen. SpaceX has long since stopped showing deployment of its Starlink satellites live, so we'll be relying on the company to confirm a good separation of the Starlink satellites happening a little bit more than an hour after liftoff. Time now, T minus 11 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting. Coming up, the next milestone for SpaceX will be the engine chill sequence, which will happen at around T minus 7 minutes. Taking a look at our live chat here, want to thank I'm Lita, another channel member, for a $5 super chat, who says hello, Will, Team Mods, and Cumulus Granatus. Big thanks to John M for a $2 super chat. John. And Gail Crees, sorry, Gail, if I mispronounced your name, but appreciate the $5 super chat, who says, you're joining from Orlando, about to run outside and watch this live. Thanks for making it easy to monitor with the stream. We aim to please here at Spaceflight Now. And for those of you who are watching from the East Coast, if you are able to catch a view of the Falcon 9 rocket as it does take that northeasterly turn, be sure to let us know. Tag us with the photos or video that you're able to capture. You can find us on most social channels simply at Spaceflight Now. I also want to thank the more than 19,000 of you who are watching along with us live. It's a wonderfully large audience tonight. We certainly appreciate the now more than 20,000 of you who are watching with us this evening. If you haven't already, you could do us a super big favor just by clicking that like button and sharing the stream. That does help the YouTube algorithm to do its thing and bring this coverage to more people. And given that this is our first northeasterly Starlink mission in some time, there will be a number of folks along the East Coast that I'm sure would love to know that this is happening if they are not already aware. Well, tonight's launch of a Falcon 9 rocket will be the 609th time that a Falcon 9 takes flight. This will be SpaceX's 27th Starlink mission, or excuse me, 27th Falcon 9 mission this year. So let's go ahead and talk about the workhorse vehicle for SpaceX, the Falcon 9 rocket. Vehicle stands at a height of 70 meters or 229 feet. That's diameter of 3.66 meters or 12 feet. Majority of that comes from the rocket's first stage. Again, the booster flying today has the tail number B1078, flying for its 26th time here in just under 9 minutes. At the base of the first stage booster are 9 Merlin 1D engines, which burn a combination of RP1, or a rocket-grade kerosene, as well as liquid oxygen, producing 1.7 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. Around the engine compartment are black carbon fiber landing legs that are used to land the first stage on the drone ship. Tonight, SpaceX is using the drone ship called Just Read the Instructions. Above the first stage is the inner stage. This is a composite structure consisting of an aluminum honeycomb core, which is surrounded by carbon fiber. In that image on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the deployable hypersonic grid fins. These are titanium winglets that provide stability and steering for the Falcon 9 as it comes back to the atmosphere, tail first like a big old dart heading towards the drone ship. At the top of the inner stage are 3 mechanical latches that attach to the vehicle's second stage, and at first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, high-pressure helium is used to release those latches, and 4 pneumatic pushers ensure a clean separation. Also, the second stage engine nozzle is housed safely inside the inner stage adapter until the point of stage separation. Speaking of that second stage, the upper stage of the Falcon 9 rocket is powered by a single modified Merlin engine called a Merlin vacuum engine, or an MVac engine. It is equipped with a large nozzle, which is optimized for burns in the vacuum of space, hence the name. It produces more than 220,500 pounds of thrust, and it will be fired twice on today's flight to place the 29 Starlink satellites into their intended orbit. Like with the first stage of the Falcon 9, its upper stage also burns that same propellant mix of RP1 and LOX. Just now, T-minus 7 minutes, which means the engine chill on the booster's 9 Merlin engines is getting underway. SpaceX flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps, helping to protect them from thermal shock and damage during startup. SpaceX will do a similar engine chill on the Merlin vacuum engine that happens a little bit ahead of the 2-minute mark in flight. Should hear a call out for that. Coming back to our rundown of the Falcon 9 rocket, well, running up the vehicle, as the case is at this moment in time, we end our tour of the flight vehicle with the payload fairings at the top of the stack, currently encapsulating the 29 Starlink satellites tonight. The fairings are made up of a carbon composite material and stand 13.1 meters, or 43 feet in height, and are 5.2 meters, or 17.1 feet in diameter. Just now approaching T minus 6 minutes. At this point, the first stage RP-1 tank should be reaching flight levels. Finishing our conversation about the fairing halves, once they separate from the rocket, they'll splash down in the waters of the Atlantic Ocean, a little bit further downrange from where the booster lands on the drone ship. Coming up on the final 5.5 minutes before the flight of this Falcon 9 rocket, we should be getting pad level views and mission audio from SpaceX in less than 30 seconds. As we're awaiting views from SpaceX, want to quickly thank a few folks in the live chat here. If my chat could stop freezing, that'd be great. Thanks to
Falcon 9 tanks are pressing for the start of Stromback retract.
thanks to SpaceX for bringing in that audio now. Hear those call outs for the final few minutes of the count. And a good view of the Falcon 9 rocket here. Also, thanks to Lando R2N for the $2 super chat, who says, let's go.
Stromback retract has started.
Good call out from SpaceX. Also, thanks to Ward TWY Ford for the $2 super chat as well. It says, go SpaceX, go Falcon. You could see those clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings opening up now. Soon that large truss structure, the strongback, otherwise referred to as the transporter erector, will recline away from the Falcon 9 rocket, just a few degrees for now. As a reminder to folks, while we do have a number of our own cameras which will be capturing the various views of liftoff, the rocket flies fast, and so we're only able to show you so much live. So be sure after booster landing to stick around, and we'll give you a full tour of all the various camera views that we're capturing this launch with in full. Coming up on the final 3 minutes before liftoff, should hear a call regarding the Stage 1 liquid oxygen tank.
Stage 1 lock float is complete.
And with that good call up, we should hear a similar call regarding the rocket's second stage liquid oxygen tank at around T minus 2 minutes. While we're waiting for that fueling marker to come, I want to welcome in new channel members Rick Castle and Susan B, both joining with membership at the pad leader level. Also want to thank a couple of our channel members for growing our community here on YouTube. Big thanks to folks Nelson Reyes Jr., good to see you again tonight, gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships. And a thanks to a good friend Chuck Briggs for gifting 20 Spaceflight Now memberships. So to our newest 25 gifted members, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you with us. Be sure to thank Nelson and Chuck in the live chat.
Stage 2 lock float is complete.
And with that call, the Falcon 9 rocket is now fully loaded up with 1 million pounds of propellant. That additional venting you're seeing there from the pad as the ground gas closeouts. SpaceX releasing the remaining liquid oxygen from the feed lines there at the pad, venting it out, seeing it become gaseous oxygen.
Ground gas closeouts.
Good call there. The Falcon 9 rocket will next enter into its automated startup sequence in the final minute. Thanks to Chris Campbell for the $2 super chat, joining us from North Carolina. Let us know where you're watching from tonight, whether you're here in Florida or further up the coast or further flung around the world.
Falcon 9 has entered startup.
With that call, we are now just awaiting the SpaceX launch director to confirm that they are in fact go for launch. Should be coming in the next few seconds.
The launch director is go for launch.
And with that good call, we are now just a little more than half a minute away from the flight of this Falcon 9, the second for SpaceX today. T-minus 30 seconds and counting. And here we go. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket on the Starlink 10-41 mission. The Falcon 9 has cleared the tower. Falcon 9 rocket now traveling faster than the speed of sound, a little more than a minute after lifting off. Approaching max Q, point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Confirmation of max Q heard. Coming up to a few events in rapid succession, but first will be the MVAC chill, the thermal conditioning of the Merlin vacuum engine on the rocket's upper stage.
MVAC chill has started.
Coming up next for the Falcon 9 rocket will be first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, beginning at T plus 2 minutes and 26 seconds after departure from the pad. That will be followed quickly by stage separation and then the ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine on the rocket's upper stage. The payload fairings are set to jettison right about at the 3-minute mark in flight. More than 2 minutes post liftoff here, less than 20 seconds now till MECO. MECO, stage separation.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC startup.
Good calls, good visuals from the SpaceX onboard cameras. You can see the hypersonic grid fins now deploying on the booster. A nice view of the coastline there on the upper right of your screen. Fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Nice visual of those fairing halves falling away from our tracker view. Now a little more than 3 minutes into the flight of this Falcon 9 rocket. Coming up next will be the 3-engine entry burn. That's coming up at just about 6 minutes into this mission. So far, all appearing to go nominally for SpaceX on their second Falcon 9 rocket launch of the day. This also being the company's 22nd Falcon 9 rocket launch, supporting its Starlink constellation so far in 2026.
Both vehicles are on a nominal trajectory.
There's that good confirmation of a nominal trajectory for both the first and second stages of the Falcon 9 rocket. In the big box, you're seeing our ground trackers that are following along with the glow of the Merlin vacuum engine at the moment. Upper right is the booster. The box on the bottom right is, of course, the Merlin vacuum engine nozzle powering the rocket's upper stage. Booster is past its apogee, now making its descent towards the drone ship called Just Read the Instructions, waiting for it in the waters of the Atlantic Ocean off of the coast of South Carolina. A few hundred miles out to sea. T+5 minutes into the flight, again coming up next in now less than 1 minute will be that 3-engine entry burn. That will help dramatically slow the vehicle down ahead of the single-engine landing burn a little bit later in flight. And again, as a reminder for those joining us with coverage right now, we'll have a roundup of all of the various views that we had at liftoff coming up after booster landing. So you'll want to stick around for that so you can see all the various angles that we captured this flight from.
Both vehicles continue to follow a nominal trajectory.
Stage 1 FTS safe.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And a good job by our tracking team capturing the start of that entry burn, which will last less than 30 seconds in duration.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And with the entry burn now in the rear view mirror, coming up next is the single engine landing burn, which will take the booster B-1078 down to the drone ship. Just read the instructions. The booster flying today, making its 26th trip to space and back.
Stage 1 transonic.
With the booster traveling below the speed of sound, the start of the entry burn, or the start of the landing burn, I should say, is coming up now in less than 30 seconds. Because it's low enough to the horizon and far enough away, we won't be able to capture that with our ground tracking cameras, which is why at this point we're relying on the onboard cameras from SpaceX.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Stage 2 FTS safe.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And a good landing for a 26th time for B-1078.
NVAC shutdown.
Nominal park orbit insertion.
And with that good parking orbit achieved, the upper stage of the Falcon 9 will now coast until T plus 54 minutes and 10 seconds. There will be a brief 1-second burn to circularize the orbit, and then the Starlink satellites will be deployed at about T plus 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 31 seconds post liftoff. And with that good landing of the booster, we are getting those promised launch replays ready and in work for you. In the meantime, let's go ahead to our mission stats as they currently stand, and we'll bring in the replays as soon as they are ready. With a good liftoff and landing of the first stage booster, that was flight number 26 for booster 1078 in the SpaceX fleet, marking the liftoff of the 609th Falcon 9 rocket launch to date, the 27th of the year so far. This was SpaceX's 543rd Falcon booster reflight, with a launch of a booster that has flown at least once. This was the company's 167th orbital launch within the last 365 days, the 312th total orbital launch from Pad 40 for SpaceX, and the 367th overall orbital launch from this pad as well. Here's an updated look at the bar chart for the SpaceX Falcon family of rockets. Moving on to some recovery stats. This was the 152nd good landing on the drone ship called. Just read the instructions. That marked SpaceX's 477th successful drone ship landing, the 580th booster landing for SpaceX, and the 581st landing of an orbital class rocket, including Blue Origin's Never Tell Me the Odds. Finally, with some industry mission stats, this was the 15th orbital launch from Florida, the 26th from U.S. soil, the 28th from a U.S. rocket company, and the 44th orbital launch around the world. There have been 3 orbital mishaps so far this year. Here's a look at the updated Cape bar chart. Here is where the orbital pie chart now currently stands, with the U.S. continuing to hold the majority of the launches driven by SpaceX and the Falcon 9. And with that, let's go ahead and turn to our launch replays. We begin things tonight with a look at the fixed view from the press site, as shot by Adam Bernstein. Moving on to the wide view here at the press site. As we're watching these replays, want to go through and thank some folks from the live chat whose super chats I was not able to read before liftoff. Turning now to the wide tracker view here by John. So from the chat, thanks to Brian. Pardon me. Thanks to Brian Robinson for the $5 super chat. Great last name. Brian says simply, thanks. Well, thank you, Brian. Also, thanks to Elizabeth Holzer for the $2 super chat. Thank you, Elizabeth. Daniel H. 1708 gifting a Spaceflight Now membership. Thank you, Daniel. To our newest gifted member, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you with us. Be sure to thank Daniel in the live chat if you haven't already. And we hope you decide to stick around with channel membership. Andrew Keating with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Andrew. Who says, keep them streaming. We fully intend to. I want to welcome in new channel member Caroline Gannon. Joining the membership at the pad leader level. Welcome aboard, Caroline. We're glad to have you on board with us. Jennifer P. with a $2 super chat who says, shout out to my son River. He loves space. Glad you love space as much as we do, River. I'm glad you were able to watch tonight. B. Smith with a $2 super chat. Thank you, B. Also thanks to Carol DeFazio with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Carol. Lloyd Green with a $2 super chat as well, saying thanks for all the hard work, Spaceflight Now. Certainly appreciate your support of what we do, Lloyd, and thanks for being a channel member as well. BLWHCP with a $2 super chat. Really appreciate the support tonight. K Streak with a $2 super chat as well, saying for my nephew Dawson, dream big. Wholeheartedly agree. Channel member Taco King's been a member with us now for 2 months at the pad leader level. As we turn next to P. Carston's South Tracker with Max Q Productions. JB James with a $2 super chat. Sending love to Bentley and Dasha from Jared. Rocket Lady Elizabeth with a $10 super chat. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Hope you've been doing well. This is Go SpaceX, Go Spaceflight Now, Go Space Go Space Nerds joining in from around the world. Airplane on a Stick, still a great handle name. $2 super chat. He's saying Go Spaceflight Now. Thank you, Airplane. JRP with a $2 super chat, giving Timmy the shout out. Big thanks to Jack Hidari, or Hidari. Apologies, Jack, if I botched the pronunciation of your last name, but sincerely thank you for the very generous $50 super chat, I should say, saying Go SpaceX. Thank you again for the support at that level. Really appreciate that. Also, big thanks as well to Kevin Campbell for also a very generous $20 super chat. Really appreciate that, Kevin. Says Go SpaceX. Thank you to all the super chats we're getting tonight. This is quite generous of our audience, so we really do appreciate that. You are the ones that are able to allow us to remain an independent entity, bringing you these live launch coverage opportunities alongside our reporting here at Spaceflight Now. So big thanks to all of you who are able to support through super chats and channel membership, but also just being here to watch and hitting that subscribe and like button also helps tremendously. Turning now to P. Carson's wide tracker here as we roll on through the super chats. Jeremiah Lofner with a $2 super chat here. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thanks to Ganeth66 for the $4 super chat. See, we're just troubleshooting something with the replays. We'll bring those back here momentarily. In the meantime, thanks to KJ Denock for a $10 super chat. Looks like we've got that worked out now. Is Go USA, Go Elon from San Diego. Nelson Reyes with a $20 super chat. Really appreciate that, Nelson. Again, thanks for gifting the memberships earlier in the broadcast. Nelson says, as always, thank you, Spaceflight Now, for your premium coverage of everything space. Thank you for the kind words tonight, Nelson. Poppy Big Bear with a $2 super chat says, great view from New Jersey. Heard it come and great flame. That is excellent to hear that visibility was good up that far north. Welcome aboard to new channel member Jack Hittery, joining us with membership at the pad leader level. MKGTMG with a $2 super chat says, hello from the Gain family, Cape May in New Jersey. Well, from one Cape to another, hello from down here in Florida. Terry Lucas with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Terry, who says from Julia and Terry, was able to see it from Cape Coral. Thanks. Lots of Cape viewings tonight. That is terrific. And Altair with a $5 super chat, who says, really appreciate your coverage and amazing dedication and content. Well, as the blistering pace of launch continues, we are doing our level best to keep pace with it. So your support tonight from all of you is a big way that we are able to make sure that we are able to try and keep up with SpaceX and all the various other aspects of commercial and government spaceflight that are happening these days. And we're going to wrap things up here with our final replay view, the tracker here at the press site from our Adam Bernstein. Got a couple more super chats that have just popped in, thanks to the Nines Band PA, I'm assuming Pennsylvania, the $2 super chat. Thank you to the Nines. And thanks as well to James Godwin for a $10 super chat. James, really appreciate that support tonight. Looking towards what's coming up next on the schedule for those who enjoy these double launch days, there's another pair of Falcon 9 rockets set to fly a little bit later this week on March 4th. Got a Falcon 9 rocket launch in the middle of the afternoon for those in California, mid-afternoon here in Florida. That's the Starlink 17-18 mission. Also looking at a launch from here in Florida, the Starlink 10-40 flight. Starlink 10-40 going to be quite early in the morning, though. That's right now launching with a window that opens up at 2 a.m. Eastern time. So wonderful for folks in Europe, not quite so for us here on the East Coast. But we'll be with you regardless for that launch. So we've got a few more super chats that have come in. AllieStairs.com with a $10 super chat who says, without you, I wouldn't have seen this. Thank you so much, from Allentown, Pennsylvania. Kathy Willits with a $10 super chat as well. Making the super chat in memory of her mother, who in the 1960s put her sister and her in front of the television to watch the astronauts take their first steps on the moon. Now, that is a truly wonderful memory, and one that I'm sure countless parents around the world are very excited to bring to their children when, I suppose now, the Artemis 4 mission, that's going to take some getting used to, and the Artemis 4 mission is now set to land humans back on the moon as part of NASA's Artemis program. You can learn all about the shifting around and adjustments to the Artemis program by watching our latest video here on YouTube, if you haven't had a chance to check that out. A couple more super chats before I think we're going to wrap things up tonight. Let's see, Cynthia Nielsen with a $2 super chat who says, awesome. Saw from Ocala, Florida. Glad you got some good views there. And Mike Burns with a $10 super chat as well. Big thanks to Mike. And with that, I believe that is the last super chat. So thanks to our moderator here in the chat, Jeff Hansen, who's been helping us out this evening, and to channel member Cumulus Granatus for answering folks' questions in the chat. Big thanks to our friends Chuck and Jen Briggs from C&J Images, as well as to Pete Carstens with Max Q Productions for providing tracking assistance for this Falcon 9 rocket. Want to thank, as always, our stellar photography crew for their wonderful tracking work, as well as getting some stills of this Falcon 9 rocket as it took flight, which you'll be able to check out on social media here in just a bit. You can follow their work at their handles on X. John is at John Pisani Photo, Adam at A Burn NYC, and Michael at MD Kane Jr. If you haven't already, they did get some really nice shots during the Artemis update briefing that they've shared to their social sites. So be sure to give them a follow and give those posts a like and retweet while you're at it. That'd be stellar. Also want to thank our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, for running the technical operations of the broadcast alongside John Pisani. Most importantly, though, thanks to you for wherever you've been watching from. I'm going to be remiss if I didn't thank Astro Joe, another one of our moderators who's been helping us out here in the chat. A couple more super chats hitting at the buzzer. Welcome to new channel member John Steven, joining membership at the Pad Leader level. Welcome aboard, John. We're glad to have you with us. And Limber Cumbus, the $5 super chat, says, now let's wait for Artemis 2. As the earliest launch opportunity for Artemis 2 is coming up next month in April, but a firm launch date won't be set until the helium flow issue has been resolved, the rocket's back at the pad, and teams are in a good posture to set a target launch date. April Fool's Day would be the very earliest opportunity, if that is still in the cards. We shall see. And with that, that's going to go ahead and do it for us here in our coverage of the Starlink 10-41 mission. For all of us here at Spaceflight Now, big thank you to you for watching at home. And remember, be good to yourselves, be good to others. And we will see you next time, folks. Until then, bye-bye.